llamado a Cuba y habrá avisado que estaba en la televisión.
Estamos viendo por lo menos a ella, a ver qué ha pasado.
Ahí vuelve.
Dina.
Vale. ¿Escuchan?
Sí, Dina.
A ver, me llevan para Zapata y C, en vivo desde España. Hago responsable al gobierno de cualquier cosa que me pueda pasar.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If you have not heard by now, the Cubans are fighting back. The Cuban uprising was beginning to reveal itself this past weekend, which is a good thing because the Cuban people have been suffering under an oppressive communist, socialist regime for decades. And what we saw this past weekend was some action that we haven't seen on the magnitude probably in the beginning of the 90s. It's been a long time since we've seen this kind of pushback from the Cuban people. So shout out to all the Cubans and all of the support that is coming alongside of it as well, that you're seeing across the United States, across the world as well. People that are supporting the Cuban people that are continually suffering at the hands of a communist regime. For those of you that may have not seen that, well, that's been taking place these past couple days. And you know what people need to understand about this is it's definitely something that the radical left doesn't want you to understand. And we're going to get into that as well. And, you know, the Democrats, the so-called woke-tards, are coming out against voter ID because they think they're so virtuous. But also, we're going to get into an actual YouTuber, a Cuban YouTuber, that was doing a live television interview when the communist state police knocked on her door and detained her, which is pretty shocking. So we're going to get into that as well. My name is Drew Hernandez. Welcome to Drew Hernandez Live. Hopefully I'm one of your favorite podcast hosts here on YouTube. If you guys can do me a huge favor and subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, destroy that like button, and share this video far and wide wherever you could post a link. Also, guys, we are 100% independent alternative media. This show is supported by the people, we the people, that is you the people. So if you would like to support me, go check out the merch store. The link is in the description below. Or guys, give a one-time donation through Venmo, PayPal, or Cash App. The link is in the description. Or we do super chats at the end of every single show. If you want to leave a super chat now, in the middle of the show, or at the end of the show, we read them Q&A format at the end of every single show. So if that's how you'd like to support me, go that route as well. And shout out to the DH Alliance, those who support me for as low as $5 a month on this membership section of this channel. Thank you guys for the support. Now, all that out of the way, like I said, hit that bell notification and toggle on the all selection. Share this video right now. We're extremely demonetized and deboosted, shadow banned on this channel. So it's up to you guys to get this information out. Thank you guys very much. Alrighty, so for those of you that need to catch up on your news, I would be shocked if you haven't heard about this by now. Let's get this up. But Cuba is standing up for itself. Thousands protested in Cuba this past weekend, calling for the end of a communist dictatorship. Tons of images. You had people storming the streets. They literally stormed the outside perimeter of the Cuban capital as well. Some of them were holding American flags. Some of them had face masks on, American face masks on, which is interesting because America is such a horrible place. Why are people waving American flags as a symbol of freedom against communist and oppressive ideologies and regimes in the world? You're still seeing this to this day. But CBS Miami reported that civil unrest has boiled over due to the COVID-19 pandemic, with protesters chanting, "We are not afraid," as they called for more food and vaccines. Now, what the post-millennial means here by due to the COVID-19 pandemic is that's not why they're protesting. This whole pandemic has culminated in even more oppression on people. Okay, so it's a total accumulation. It's culminating finally at the totality. It's just the pandemic has added to it. But people were trying to say, the left was trying to say, that they're protesting just against COVID. That's not true. So they go on to say, the Miami Herald reports that Cuba is in the midst of its worst economic contraction since the end of the Cold War. They attribute chronic insufficiencies, and paralyzing bureaucracy, decimated essential food, and agricultural sectors. Rising inflation have also led to long lines for food. Sanctions from the Trump administration reduced Cuba's access to foreign investment and remittances that exacerbated fiscal realities opposed further by COVID-19. We've never seen anything like this before. Republican representative said on Twitter, the Cuban people are determined to be free. Now, here are a couple of things that I wanted to report on as well, as you had Marco Rubio tweeting his support of the Cuban uprising as well. We also had Ron DeSantis and many other people on Twitter, all over Twitter, tweeting their support for the Cuban uprising. Now, let's take this down. One thing that I wanted to address here is that you were hearing multiple times the fake news was trying to say over and over and over again that the Cuban people were uprising. Even White House officials, Biden White House officials, okay, that were appointed by the Biden administration, were trying to say that the Cuban people are uprising because they don't have enough vaccines, or they don't have enough medical attention because of the pandemic. That's maybe 1.5% of the entire reason why these people are uprising against a communist dictatorship. And the fake news tries to blame Trump's policies. The fake news tries to blame what's happening with Cuba as if it's his fault. When you hear the fake news come out and say, well, Trump cut some aid to Cuba, and that's the reason why they don't have anything. No, because Trump knows when you send money to these dictators, it doesn't go to the people. You know where it goes? It goes to him and his regime. So that is why these things take place. And it's not because Trump hates the Cuban people. He actually loves the Cuban people because he wants them to be free. That's why you saw the Cubans coming out in hordes and voting for Trump in 2020. And now the radical left is losing their minds and freaking out because Latinos are now voting for Trump. Yes, it makes sense, right? Because we stand against communism and socialism, and we want nothing to do with it in this country or anywhere on the face of planet Earth. And you're not going to convince Cubans that communism or any kind of version of communism or socialism is somehow okay. That is just not going to happen anywhere, anytime soon with the Cuban community. Now listen, to this day, you have to understand that the American flag, you had Cubans that were marching, thousands of people marching against, okay, the communist dictatorial regime that they've been oppressed by for decades. That is why these people took to the streets. And obviously, they're not receiving aid when it comes to COVID or when it comes to any kind of medical attention. They're not receiving anything. You watch countless videos on social media of people that have stormed the streets, and they're saying what? They're preaching liberty, freedom. That is what they're chanting, because that is what they're suffering from, because they are an oppressed people by who? By communist psychopaths. The same Marxist ideology that AOC and Bernie Sanders and all these woke tards are trying to shove down your mouth are what they are fighting against right now as we speak. Same ideology. That's where it's birthed from. That's its origins. That's when the BLM communists that come out with their Marxist agendas and they try and tell people that somehow all the other communists got it wrong, even Karl Marx himself, which is actually pretty ironic. Did you know that they actually teach this? Did you know that decades after Karl Marx was long in God and his false prophecy, Karl Marx was prophesying that an economic revolution was going to take place across the world, the globe. Didn't happen. So you know what happened? All the Marxists and the communists were trying to figure out, how could Karl Marx get this wrong? So then cultural Marxism was born out of that, because the cultural Marxists decades later were trying to answer the question as to why was Karl Marx wrong? And you know what the answer was and what they came up with was? He didn't do it right. He only focused on the economy. We need to focus on the culture, education, people of authority and influence. We need to infiltrate everything. Cultural Marxism. So the ideology itself even dates back to claiming that Karl Marx himself had it wrong, so they needed an updated version, which now they claim is being practiced wrongfully across the world every time it turns into tyranny and bloodshed. Does that make any sense to anybody? Absolutely not. And you want to know why? Because it's a destructive doctrine of demons that ends in oppressive tyranny and bloodshed anywhere it's practiced. I don't care where you look. This is what happens to people when they are under tyrannical socialist and communist rule. And you're seeing it in Cuba right now. And the people of Cuba are saying enough is enough, and they're standing up against it. And Cubans and Hispanics and Americans in the United States of America, by the way, are standing in solidarity as well, because enough is enough. We don't want socialism. We don't want this garbage communism. We don't want this in our country. And this is why we are all taking aggressive stances against this, no matter where you are, no matter where you stand. If you're in America, you'd better be educated and informed with what Marxism is, what cultural Marxism is, what critical race theory is, what neo-Marxism is, what neo-communism is. They're all wrapped in one, and it's being practiced in Cuba right now, in Venezuela, and that is what AOC wants to shove down your mouth. That is what Bernie Sanders wants to turn this country into. That is exactly what these neo-communists, Marxists, so-called socialists, democratic socialists in this country, that is where they want to take you. You see all those images in Cuba? That's going to be you if you sell your soul to the socialists and the communists in this country. That is what is going to happen to this economy. That is what is going to happen to this government. That is what is going to happen to everything that America stands on right now if we embrace and sell our souls to the communists and socialists in this country. And if you oppose communism, then drop a 1 in the comment section right now. It's a joke. It's funny. It's hilarious because people like every single time you get these woke tards like, well, they're just practicing communism wrong. That's what they said about Karl Marx, you woke tard. Literally. They literally had to re-explain why Karl Marx's false prophecy of a worldwide utopia didn't come to pass. And they said that Karl Marx got it wrong because he only focused on the economy. We got to focus on everything. We got to infiltrate education. We got to infiltrate society. We got to infiltrate art, music. The list goes on. Politics, religion. Oh, so now all of a sudden you guys have what Karl Marx had wrong, right? Does it make sense why this never ends up right or doesn't end well for anybody that practices this on a grand scale? It's a doctrine of demons that makes no sense. Anyways, just to give you guys a brief update. So while the uprising was taking place, we had a Cuban journalist that was on a very, very well-known, I think it was in Spain. She was on a television network and she was being interviewed about what was taking place. And shockingly, literally quite shockingly, she was being interviewed and the communist state police show up to her house and knock on the door and detain her in front of her and her family. On live television, this happens. If you guys don't believe me, here's your damn utopian ideas in real time for all of you woke tards and neo-communists and socialists out there. Take a look. Actually, let me get out of let me get out of the way here. Hold on. There we go.
¿Qué pasó?
Dina, ¿quieres decir algo?
Que no oye.
La seguridad está allá afuera.
¿Está fuera la seguridad?
Tengo que salir.
Te están llamando.
Voy a dejar a mi amiga aquí.
Sí, sal, nos quedamos en espera aquí.
La van a detener en directo.
No sé.
Directamente la van a tener.
No sé si podéis. Eso es, para ver qué va a pasar. A ver,
no podemos grabar ahora. No podemos grabar ahora afuera.
¿Podemos escuchar lo que le dicen?
Voy a ver.
Que no te pongas en peligro, evidentemente, pero si se puede escuchar la conversación.
A ver si se puede escuchar.
Pero no te pongas en peligro, por favor.
Funcionario.
No sé si se ve.
Estamos viendo en directo cómo la seguridad llama a nuestro contacto en Cuba y habla con ella. Estamos en directo y no sabemos lo que va a pasar a partir de ahora.
Alguien de aquí habrá llamado a Cuba y habrá avisado que estaba
La estamos viendo por lo menos a ella, a ver qué ha pasado. Dina.
Vale. ¿Escucha?
Sí, Dina.
A ver, me llevan para Zapata y C, en vivo desde España. Hago responsable al gobierno de cualquier cosa que me pueda pasar.
Dina.
Me tengo que ir.
Dina, sí, sí.
¿Te van a detener? ¿Te van a detener?
No lo sé, me dijeron que lo acompañaron. No lo sé, me dijeron que los acompañaron.
Va. ¿Vas tú sola?
No, bueno, sí. Mis amigos irán detrás.
Tus amigos irán. Bueno, pues...
Me tengo que ir.
Ve.
Bye.
There she is. Sad. Look at the old cars, man. It's just stuck in time, man. Well, let's get a little bit of context for all my people out there. Here we go. Let's get this up real quick. The YouTuber Dina Stars arrested by the Cuban police in the middle of a live interview. On Tuesday, the Cuban police interrupted a live interview with the YouTuber Dina Stars with a Spanish television program and has been taken into custody. Live, I hold the government responsible for anything that may happen to me, said the young Cuban seconds before leaving. The influencer with thousands of followers on various social networks has shown herself as a staunch opponent of the government of the Cuban dictator there in Cuba, and in recent days, she participated in several interviews to tell what was happening on the island, which is currently going through the biggest protests against the executive since the 90s. In their social networks, Stars had also called to participate in a new protest this Tuesday at the Capitol in Havana. These are people with influence that they're now silencing. The interview with Channel 4 of Spain, when YouTuber began to make signs that something was wrong, Dina, do you want to say something? And she just goes over just exactly what happened. So let's take this down. Listen, man, this is in real time what this looks like. Okay, this is what this looks like in real time. You have an activist, someone that's very vocal in Cuba, speaking out against the dictators, speaking out against the regime. The state police end up showing up to her house. So obviously they've been tracking her. They've been monitoring her. Not quite sure how they found exactly where she lived, but obviously we live in 2021 and that could happen very easily, especially when it comes to a dictatorial regime. But these are the types of things that we're going to start to see unfold in this country as well, in the United States of America, if we embrace socialism, if we embrace communism, because this is what these people practice in Cuba right now, and there's no freedom. It's only oppression. There's no freedom of speech. There's no freedom to peacefully protest. I can assure you that. That is why the state police ends up coming to your house when you start to aggressively speak out against them. And shout out to this YouTuber if she has the right intentions, and shout out to this YouTuber for being completely outspoken and speaking out against such an evil regime, because that is what is necessary in times like these. But I warn America right now, don't sit there and chuckle and say, oh, Drew, you're just being a little too over the top there, man. That's never going to happen to this country. Oh, really? Really? Look how much progress, okay, whenever you hear these progressives say we're making progress, when you hear Black Lives Matter or the neo-socialists, the Squad, AOC, and all these woke-tards, whenever you hear them talking about we are making progress, they're not making progress for the liberty and freedom of the United States of America. And they're not lying. These progressives that are neo-communists and socialists, they're not liars when they're saying we're making progress. They are making progress with their communism and their socialism in this country. They've infiltrated everything with the cultural Marxism. They've infiltrated medicine. They've infiltrated science. They've infiltrated education. They've infiltrated music and movies, and the list goes on. Obviously politics, and obviously the think tanks in this country. The culmination of it is Cuba. The totality of it is Venezuela. That's where this country will go immediately. These ideologies look good on paper. These utopias, they sound amazing, and fairy tale stories where we live in this utopia where everyone is equal and we get equally paid. But isn't it interesting when it comes to the economy, when they say they want to control the means and the ends of the economy, they never tell the people what that ends up looking like and the dollar amount. Because the communists come out and say, we're going to have equality for all. Everybody's just going to get paid the same. Well, how much? And it ends up being what? Freaking peanuts and nothing and bread lines, because that kind of economy cannot sustain itself whatsoever for more than maybe 5 years. 10 if they're lucky. But it always ends up in a bloody, authoritarian, oppressive regime. And don't you find it interesting that AOC and Bernie Sanders have been silent? You want to know why? Because they know everything I just told you is 100% accurate. These people know that their ideas turn into communist Cuba. These people know that what the Cubans are suffering from right now in this oppression is everything that they believe in implemented in real time in a real society, and the totality and culmination of what it ends up looking like. But they don't want the American people, especially the woke-tards on the left, they don't want you guys to see that. So that's why they don't comment on it. Because they know that their ideas lead to just exactly that. And now you have even Cubans waving American flags in the midst of it as a symbol of freedom. That is why AOC is silent. That is why Bernie Sanders is silent. These so-called champions that fight against oppressors. Oh, where is Black Lives Matter? The neo-communist organization that is so-called championing, leading the charge against oppressors, not only in this country, but in the world. Why are they not standing in solidarity? Oh, Black Lives Matter will stand in solidarity with an oppressive mindset like Hezbollah and the Palestinians in Gaza. They'll stand in solidarity with them, but not the Cubans. You want to know why? Because they're on the same side. They're on the same side. Their ideology is all oppressive and dictatorial, okay? That is why these people don't say anything. That is why AOC says nothing. That is why Bernie Sanders says nothing. These so-called democratic socialists, because they know. They know where their ideas lead. And they don't want people waking up. It's a breach in the matrix. It's a breach in the simulation for these people. And you say, Drew, what are you talking about? It is a breach in the simulation when you see Cubans waving American flags, okay, chanting freedom and liberty against a communist socialist regime. That is not supposed to be seen. AOC doesn't want you to see that. Bernie Sanders doesn't want you to see that. That's why they're not commenting on it. Because it'll bring attention to it and it'll expose that, hey, don't you have the same ideas? Why are these people waving American flags, chanting and fighting for their freedom against ideas that you're trying to get us to get on board with? That's what they don't want. So if you're wondering why Bernie Sanders is silent, if you're wondering why AOC is silent, that's exactly why. Oh, but we care about the minorities. We care about the oppressed. And it's the Republicans and the Christians that are the oppressors. Where the hell are you guys right now? I don't see you guys standing in solidarity with the Cubans that are suffering from oppression by a communist regime, because they know they cannot stand in solidarity because it would literally debunk their own existence and ideas. That's who these people are, dude. That is who these people are. Literally. Idiots. Anyways, well, let's move forward, okay? So today, I was a little late today, so I got to be a little quick. So, you have Democrats from Texas, these woke-tard, virtue-signaling Democrats. Joe Biden gave a speech like a day after or a few hours after, where these Democrats, they are leaving they've done an exodus out of Texas, okay? Because they're protesting the so-called racist voter ID hearings that Republicans are trying to pass in Texas right now, holding election integrity at the forefront of the conversation. And we all know that the radical left virtue signals, all these woke whites, okay? All these woke whites end up virtue signaling and coming out and saying, oh, the black people are being oppressed. The brown people are too stupid and poor to figure out how to get a voter ID. You're suppressing their constitutional right to vote. That is literally what they say. And like, I sit here as a person of color, I'm like, shut up. Anyways, here's what happened. Let's get this up. So, Texas Democrat, we took a private jet to DC because everybody wants to see us together. Okay? There's the picture of them on a private jet with no masks on, no social distancing. Yet you got to slap a mask on your face and you'll get kicked off of American Airlines because you're a peasant. Texas State Rep Trey Fisher, one of the dozens of Democrat state lawmakers in Texas who fled the state as part of a protest against the legislators' pursual of measures to strengthen election integrity, claimed he and his colleagues chartered a flight to D.C. because everybody wanted to see them together. Speaking on CNN's New Day on Tuesday, Fisher defended their mode of transportation, contending it was what the people wanted to see. So number one, when you break a quorum, you want to be successful. So I think everybody wants to see 51, 52, 55 Democrats on the same plane. That's reassuring. Fisher said, referring to the picture showing several maskless, smiling Democrat lawmakers aboard the plane. On plane to D.C., Texas Democratic lawmakers are leaving the state to break quorum to stop Republican voting bill. Veteran Capitol observers say this is uncharted territory. So a hearing was supposed to take place today and a vote was supposed to take place to pass this kind of legislature and this law in Texas. And they decided to protest by literally leaving the state so they don't have to vote. And they're still getting paid by your taxpayer money, by the way. There they are in buses. Same thing, no social distancing, no masks, because these people are elites. There they are on the plane again. Just smiling. Look at the white wokes, the woke whites. Look at them. Look at that smile face. I'm so woke. My God, the black people and the brown people will be so proud of me. To avoid a vote, Texas Democrats jet off to D.C. on privately chartered planes, maskless, unlike all the little people who fly commercial. What a look. Look at these pictures, man. These people, bro. Like, this is what I have to say about this. Number one, let's break this down. Number one, listen, the reason why these people get on a plane like this is because you're the peasant and they're the elites. You are the peasant and they are the elites. Okay? While your 3-year-old little kid, okay, gets kicked off of American Airlines for not wearing a mask when they don't even have to, because they're not anywhere near in those percentages of being openly a target for COVID. While your 3-year-old little kid is getting kicked off of American Airlines for not wearing a face mask, these elite white woke Democrats and these elite Democrats jump on a private plane without any masks, without any social distancing. You sit down, peasant. We're the elites. You want to see this, don't you? See how disconnected and disillusioned these people are from reality? This is how they view you. This is where we are in this country. These are the same people that run around with their alarmism, telling everybody they need to wear a face mask because you're going to die. You need to wear a face mask because you're going to die. COVID is going to kill you and your family. Oh, but I'm fully vaccinated. It doesn't matter. You wear a face mask anyways because you're going to die. Please, I challenge anyone to sit here and try and tell me that's not what they say. These are the same people that preach their alarmism, okay? That hop on airplanes without any face masks on and sit there and smile and take a selfie and don't give a damn what you have to say about it. Rules for thee, but not for me, because you're a peasant and I'm an elite. That's how these people think. And whatever happened to climate change? What about their carbon footprint? They couldn't have, rode a horse to D.C. to lower their carbon footprint in comparison to a private jet? These are the same people that are trying to shove the climate change garbage down your mouth. Oh, climate change, you're not going to be able to have a gasoline car in the next 10 years. Oh, the world's going to end in 12 years. Watch as I hop on my private jet to virtue signal so I can make all the black people and the brown people proud of me. My God, you have to be an idiot. You have to be seriously so stupid to sit here and watch this stuff and be like, yeah, those people represent me and they care about me. While you are literally stuck on lockdown in your room in a corner with 5 face masks on and Joe Biden's mask Nazis Joe Biden's vaccine Nazis showing up knocking on your door wondering if you've been vaccinated for the 6th time. My gosh, wake up, America. This is about control. This is about control. They don't care. They know they're hypocrites. They know there's a double standard. This is what I tell people all the time. Of course I know. But you think that they don't know? You think that these people don't know that they're hypocrites? Of course they know. But they don't care. Because they're in power, and while you sit on American Airlines and you put that face mask on and you sit down like a good little boy and you sit down like a good little girl, I'm going to go on my private jet and fly freely without a face mask on because I'm an elite. I'm a Democrat. Don't you even question me, because if you do, you'll be censored on social media, you piece of garbage. That's who these people are, dude. That is literally who these people are. And it's just hilarious because not only that is offensive, but these are the people. Let me just play this, okay? These are the people who are claiming that black people and people of color in Texas are having their vote suppressed, okay? Because they're too poor or too uneducated to get themselves up and just go get a voter ID. That is what these people say. Literally. That is why they're against voter ID, because they believe it's oppressive to people like me, brown guy, okay? People they say that I'm too stupid and I'm too poor to figure out how to get a voter ID. Therefore, I'm oppressed. Number one, they don't understand that that's a racist ideology, because it's the assumption that black people and brown people are all poor and can't figure it out. And we're the racists, right? They're the racists. They're the ones that insist that you're oppressed. They insist that you're too poor. They insist that you're too uneducated. Sit down, little brown boy. Sit down, little black boy. Let us take care of this for you. You're oppressed. Yeah, no, thank you. I actually want a voter ID. I think that would be better for election integrity. I don't feel oppressed. No, you sit down and that's who these people are, dude. That's who these people are. They're the racists. They're the ones that push this narrative of black people are oppressed and brown people are oppressed. And now they're protesting hearings, okay? They're not doing their jobs because they're not going to vote. So that's how they're just going to stop the vote. So in Texas, they're protesting a vote that's going to push voter integrity laws, which might include a voter ID. But now they're saying, no, we're not going to go do that because that's racist and that's oppressing black and brown people because they're too poor and too stupid to figure out how to do it. You got these white wokes on a and then they come out, they say that black people and brown people are too stupid and they're too poor to figure out how to get a voter ID. So let me go jump on a private jet to let the world know that that's what I believe. My God, dude, holy crap. And I'm sitting here as a person of color in America. I'm like, who the hell do you think you are? Oh my goodness, man. These people are a joke. They're literally a joke. Now, Joe Biden came out. I think he was in Pennsylvania. Joe Biden came out, spoke on this, and he had some words to say. Biden gave a speech. He was talking about taking shots at Trump because, you know, he's Biden's for unity, and that's how you achieve unity. You talk crap about a former president. We all know that. And Biden started to, you know, talk about the election, and he started to say that right now, in regards to Republicans trying to uphold election integrity by having voter ID, Joe Biden compared that to the Civil War. Okay, and listen, I'm just gonna play it for you, man. This is like, when I heard this, I'm like, this is what's gonna cause people to start killing each other. This is the kind of rhetoric, dude. Like, literally, this is the kind of rhetoric from a U.S. president that's gonna get people to start killing each other. And I'm just gonna come out. I'm gonna say that right now. This kind of rhetoric gives people a pass to be violent. Okay, and YouTube, I'm not the one saying this. This is your so-called glorified savior and messiah, Joe Biden. Take a look.
So hear me clearly. There's an unfolding assault taking place in America today, an attempt to suppress and subvert the right to vote and fair and free elections. An assault on democracy, an assault on liberty, an assault on who we are as Americans. For make no mistake, bullies and merchants of fear, peddlers of lies, are threatening the very foundation of our country. It gives me no pleasure to say this. I never thought in my entire career I'd ever have to say it. But I swore an oath to you, to God, to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. That's an oath that forms a sacred trust to defend America against all threats, both foreign and domestic.
Hear that? Domestic threats. Domestic threats. Joe Biden just called Republicans a domestic threat. All right? This is the rhetoric.
The assault on free and fair elections is just such a threat, literally. I've said it before. We're facing the most significant test of our democracy since the Civil War. That's not hyperbole. Since the Civil War.
He said it, YouTube. That's not hyperbole. He said it. He said it, dude. He made himself very, very clear. He's not being hyperbolic. That's what that means. Biden said very clear. He's not being hyperbolic. He's not exaggerating. He says right now that what's at stake as if we are in a civil war. That's what he's saying. And they said Trump's rhetoric was violent. And they said Trump was too dangerous to keep on Twitter. And they said Trump's rhetoric was radicalizing people. And in some cases, you may be able to prove that because there are some people that go a little way too far. Okay, I'm just going to come out and say that. But the fact here is Biden's rhetoric, he's literally pinning people against themselves, against each other. They want destabilization. They want a civil war. They want a race war. That's what this is. He literally just called for a race war. Because we know Biden literally just called Republicans because who are the ones? Who are the ones that are proposing voter ID, voter integrity laws? Republicans. He literally just said, I swore an oath to protect the Constitution from enemies, foreign and domestically. Who the hell do you think he's talking about? Bro, like he's literally instigating a civil race war in this country. That's what Biden just did right there. And Trump is radicalizing people, and Trump is too dangerous to stay on Twitter, yet Biden gets a pass, and there he is on Twitter, literally radicalizing the radical left even further. Biden, listen, there's a book that I want people to take a look at, and I've taken a look at some of the aspects of the audio book. There's an individual by the name of Saul Alinsky, and Saul Alinsky wrote a book called Rules for Radicals. Saul Alinsky was someone who influenced Hillary Clinton in her early college years. Saul Alinsky wrote a book. It's basically a neo-communist, cultural Marxist, subversive, tactical book. That's what it is. How to take over a society with neo-Marxism is what this book is about. And it's called Rules for Radicals. And Saul Alinsky actually dedicates the book to Lucifer himself. He calls him the ultimate radical because he rebelled against God, and he says he won his own kingdom, and it's very temporary, and Christ is going to come back, and that's a whole theological topic. But in Saul Alinsky's book, he talks about how to usher in this culturally Marxist utopia in a way that's nonviolent from a government perspective. And what he argues in this book, what Saul Alinsky argues in this book is you need some kind of artificial conflict inside of a society or inside of a country where this is what he taught, where you find the two most polar opposite, you find the two people with the most conflict, or groups of people with the most conflict, you fan those flames, you instigate, fan those flames to the point of a civil war. And you get these people to slaughter each other, you destabilize the country, so where everyone else will eventually come to the realization that, you know what, maybe we do need some government intervention, and we need the new peaceful utopia to come and usher in. That's what Saul Alinsky taught, is that's how you bring in, that's how you convince people to embrace the cultural Marxist utopia. You do it when they find themselves in a total destabilized society, to where they'll start asking you for peace. They'll start asking you for a peaceful government. They'll start asking you for a peaceful utopia. And what he thought and what he argued was that's when you usher in the Marxist utopia. You have the people destroy themselves. And then eventually there'll be an outcry for a new peaceful government. I don't know, man. All I got to say is that's what I'm seeing in this country. And I warn white people and I warn black people. Everything that you are seeing is by design. The race war that they're engineering, that has been cultivated for the past few years, it hasn't gotten to the top yet. It hasn't burst at the seams yet. But the reason why you hear Biden say stuff like this is because this is the playbook that they play with. Biden knows what he's doing. I know he's a mindless buffoon, but these people know what they're doing. They know that their rhetoric, listen, because again, you think that Biden doesn't know that his rhetoric is violent and could potentially cause a civil war in the country? He straight up says right now, in this day and age, when it comes to this whole voting thing, this is like the Civil War. What do you think that's going to do to the radical left? What do you think? How do you think BLM is going to respond to that? How do you think Antifa is going to respond to that? They are going now. The president of the United States just gave the radical left an excuse to get violent with anyone that calls for voter IDs. Oh, and Twitter says, oh, we care about real world violence and we'll take down anything that could potentially call for that. No, they don't, because they're all on the same side. They know they're hypocrites. They know it's a double standard, but they don't care. That's not what this is about. It's not about being honest. It's not about being in the truth. It's about power and control over you. It's pretty twisted, man. That's what they want. They want black people and white people at each other's necks because it'll eventually give them an excuse to usher in government overreach. They want a civil war. We shouldn't give it to them. This is why I tell black people, man, on the left, I'm like, listen, I know I make fun of you guys and I call you woke tards, but, you know, I just wish that black people would realize that what's happening to them in the community with all this racism stuff is literally by design. It's an agenda. It's an agenda to destabilize the country. They want you at odds with white people. We're seeing it right now, bro. I encourage people, go read that book, Rules for Radicals. That is literally his playbook. Get the two people in society that have the biggest problems with each other and just cultivate and fan the flames, destabilize it, cause them to fall. So they'll be begging you for government overreach, and then usher in the utopian ideas when they're nice and vulnerable and they want peace and they want unity. That's what you're seeing, man. That's what you're seeing. We should ban communism, dude, like straight up. And I know this is not a conservative thing or a libertarian thing to say. I don't care, okay? Communism should be banned in the United States of America. I'm going to say this publicly, and I don't care what people have to say. Here's why. Because communism subverts our constitutional freedoms. They take advantage of freedom of speech. They take advantage of these freedoms that we all share, and they'll turn that around to subvert the country and bring us into an authoritarian dictatorial regime. It's an ideology that is designed to subvert and take advantage of our freedoms that we have in this country. Some ideas are too dangerous to be allowed to be practiced. I'm just going to come out and say that, man. There's doctrines of demons in this world that infiltrate the minds of millions of people, and it leads to things like the Holocaust. It leads to things like mass murder and genocide and communist dictatorial regimes, and it's because people don't take a stand against it. Communism should be banned in practice in this country. I don't care what people say. I don't care. Oh, Drew, Communism takes advantage of your First Amendment right to turn around and say, we should ban you. But yeah. That's right, I said it, and I don't care. Alrighty, guys, let's do some super chats. If you guys would like to support the show, let's do some super chats right now. So if you guys would like to support me, obviously for obvious reasons, we're extremely deboosted in shadow ban because I say some pretty crazy stuff. So it makes it hard for us to monetize like a regular YouTuber would with over 55,000 subscribers. I apologize. I wish that I wasn't so shadow banned. But obviously, I say some pretty crazy things, so it is what it is. I just got to speak the truth, man. I just got to speak the truth. So let's do some super chats. Okay, we have some super chats right now. We have a super chat from Red Mage X111. Red Mage X111. We have a super chat, or two super chats from Red Mage, $20. Thank you so much for the support. Says, people on the left think that they're safe because they're on the correct side. Just wait until Cuba happens and the current administration starts arresting them too. Absolutely. Also for you, do you feel that if more people in the Latino population start speaking out more against AOC, for example, it'll have an effect on her support? Absolutely. She needs to get voted out of Congress. Absolutely. Black people, people of color need to get more vocal. They need to get more vocal and speak out against these talking heads that don't represent us. That don't represent us. I saw a video over the weekend. I think it was in Oakland. There was a group of black people, these based black people, that held a protest against crime, standing alongside police officers in Oakland. Antifa showed up, and the based black people got in Antifa's face and said, "You get the hell out of here, because we're protesting against crime." Because Antifa showed up and tried to say, "Oh, they're racist cops," and the black people showed up and said, "No, we don't want crime. We need them." It's powerful. It's powerful. You want to know why it's powerful? Because all the woke whites show up, trying to tell black people what to believe, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. That's where the power is with the black community. The black community needs to stand up and say, no, enough is enough. This is not who we are. And so does the Hispanic community, and millions of Latinos in this country. Just stand up, be like me, be bold, be loud, because that's what's going to get them to hear you. And you just say what the truth is and say, you know what? This doesn't represent me. I don't know why it's on MSNBC. That doesn't represent me. Have you ever sat back, listen to all my Latinos out there, have you ever sat back and watched like MSNBC or CNN and they got some woke tard up there trying to speak on behalf of the Latino community? Like, that doesn't represent me and my family. Exactly. And that's why they win. That's why they win. All people need to stand up and speak. White people, brown people, black people, all people need to stand up and speak out. We have another super chat from Neon Bright. $5 super sticker. Thank you so much for the support. And another $5 super chat from Steve Torres. Steve, thank you so much for the support. I truly appreciate it. Thank you. We have another super chat from Colt Seaman, a $10 super chat. Those Texas Dems deserve to be fired, absolutely, and arrested. And those that pull something like this in the future should lose the ability to vote for suggest any public law. Keep up the great work, brother. Thank you so much. I totally agree. I totally agree. But like I said, when you come out and say, can you imagine if Republicans did that? Oh my goodness, they'd be called racists, they'd be called subverters, they'd be called, the list goes on. But that's by design. It's by listen, what I want people to realize is you see this happen and you're like, well, if Republicans did that, the whole world would lose its mind. That's the power. That's the power these people have over conservatives, over centrists, anyone that's not on their side. That's the power that they now have, that they can get away with anything they want, but they can condemn you for just exactly what they do. It's not just hypocritical. It's not just a double standard. It's by design, and it's a power control over you. And that's where we are. It sucks. It's sad, man. These woke losers. They think they freaking own people. They really do. They really do. These people really believe that they own human beings. They feel like they're entitled to people of color just because of the color of their skin. You guys want to see something pretty hilarious? Speaking of voter IDs, I don't know if you guys have seen these statistics, but even the Washington Examiner, let's get this up real quick. I wanted to show this earlier, but I thought it was hilarious. A poll was done, and 69% of black voters and 75% overall support voter ID laws. It's nearly 70% of black people support voter ID laws. Yet there are all the woke tards on a private jet saying, we got to fight for the black people. They're being oppressed. New polling shows that a large majority supports voter ID laws that require individuals to show a photo identification before voting, including almost 70% of black voters. The poll released on Wednesday by Rasmussen Reports found that 75% believe photo identification should be presented before voting and that 69% of black voters support voter ID laws. Broken down by party, 60% of Democrats support showing an ID to vote, compared to 89% of Republicans. Let's take that down. Yet they insist on fanning the flames. Remember what I said? Saul Alinsky. You pin people against each other. Even though it's subjective, it's not really true. Facts don't matter. The rhetoric matters, and they want to pin people against each other. And that's what we're seeing, man. It doesn't matter. These people don't care. They just want a race war. That's why Joe Biden stands on the stage. He's pinning black people against white people. He's pinning black people and people of color against anyone that wants a voter ID. These people want a civil war, dude. Don't fall for it, man. Don't fall for it, man. Alrighty, guys. Well, thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Like I said, if you guys would like to donate and support the channel, make sure to go cop a t-shirt, or the link is in the description below. You can give a one-time donation on Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal. We do this show Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That is 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure to share this video, smash that like button, destroy that like button, hit that bell notification, and toggle on the all selection. I love every single one of you. Make sure to share this video far and wide where you can. And until next time, America, stay free.